Hey guys, we're going to do ACT prep for those of you that didn't get to do ACT prep in your class periods this afternoon, or for those of you that just, we went too fast in class because we really did go pretty fast. So first thing I want to draw your attention to is this first page. 57 to 60%, sorry guys, 57 to 60% is the stuff that you have done in high school, okay? So it's algebra, numbers, functions, geometry, stats, and probability. But then here's what I want to draw your attention to. 40 to 43% is stuff you did in middle school, and there's even one question on here that you did in elementary school, and it's just asking you at a high school level. The other thing I want to draw to your attention is this quick fact. You only need to get about 40 correct. There's 60 questions on the test. You only have to get about 40 correct to have a math score of over a 25. I mean, that's pretty awesome considering that 40% are middle school type questions, okay? So the very first thing you need to do is go through and answer all the questions that you can do quickly. All the questions that you know are easy questions. And when you do that, go through and circle them in your answer book, but don't waste time bubbling them in because that'll waste a few seconds. So circle them in your answer book, and then at the last few minutes, go through quickly and bubble everything in. That'll make your, that'll save you a few seconds. All right, and then here's some things that we need to remember. When it says don't be an obedient student, that means there is no partial credit. It's all or nothing. So if your question says something like 2x plus 6 equals 7, and in your calculator, you can subtract the 6 in your head or in your calculator and then divide by 2. So what I mean by that, so I know that I'm going to subtract 6 in my calculator. So I would do 7 minus 6 in my calculator. Then I know I would divide by 2. And if you can get the answer as 0.5, don't worry about writing all your steps down unless that is something that you need to get the correct answer. You're going to pick random numbers sometimes. So if I randomly pick a number, it's because I'm literally drawing a number out of my head, and we're going to use that number to see if it works right with our problem. And then after that, we're going to back solve, meaning that we're going to take our answer choices and we're going to plug in our answer choices into the problems to see if they work. And then finally, the ACT is testing to see if you can think through problems rather than can you be a computer and crunch numbers, okay? Because jobs don't want number crunchers, they want thinkers. So that's what they're going to test on here. All right, so there's a little bit more information on there that you can look through if you would like, but let's get into this thing. If I go too fast, y'all know the drill. You just pause it or rewind it. If I go too slow, then you can always fast forward, okay? So you kind of get to go at your own pace. If there's one that you don't understand how to do, and I need to do more detail, just circle it, and we will definitely look at that later for you. So number 1 is a basic middle school problem. You just distribute that 2. So you would get x plus 6 equals 2x plus 6 minus x. Then you combine like terms from there. Hold on, guys. Sorry, I had somebody come in. 1 second. Okay, so then we combine like terms, and we say 2x minus x is 1x. And you can see, if you can see from here that it's going to be all real numbers because they're already equal, then you pick all real numbers. But if you can't, let's finish it out. And you get that 6 is equal to 6. That is true. 6 does equal 6. That is true. That's why your answer is all real numbers. For example, if you get something like 5 equals 6, that is not true. So that's when you would pick A as an answer choice of no solution or the empty set, okay? But if it's true, it's all real numbers. All right, again, if I go too fast, just pause it or rewind it. All right, number 2, they give you this function, 2 over x plus 1, and what is or are, meaning you only have one answer or two answers, the real values of t for which they're equal. So in other words, that's just a real fancy way of saying whatever number you plug in, you get the same exact number as an answer. So let's start with our middle answer choice of C. That's where we always start, okay? So we have 2 over negative 2 plus 1. Now negative 2 is the answer we plugged in. If we get negative 2 as an answer, then C would be our answer choice because it's the only one that has negative 2. So we have 2 over negative 1, and the number we plugged in is the same as the number we got. And since negative 2 is the only, since there's only one negative 2, that's our answer choice. If you plugged in, just for giggles, let's plug in 1. Please don't do this on the test because you won't have time, okay? So that'll be 2 over 2, which is 1. The number we plugged in is the same as the number we got as an answer. So both of those are our answers. Okay? Don't waste your time plugging in that other one because there was only one negative 2. So there's no point in wasting that time. All right, number 3 is area of a rectangle. Area of a rectangle is length times width. The area they give you is 300, and then they give you the length is 3 times the width. So the length is 3 times the width, which means the width would just be W. Now, some people can think differently. Some people can see 3 times the width, and you ask yourself, start with the middle one, H. 3 times 50 is 150. And then times 50 would not be 300. Then go to 30. 3 times 30 is 90. Times 30 would not be 300. And then 10 times 3 is 30. Times 10 would be 300. So you can see your answer would be F. Some people can do it that way. If you had no idea what I was just doing, then let's do it the math way. 3W times W is 3W squared. Divide by 3, square root, and you still get 10. So it kind of just depends on how your brain works, guys, okay? The ACT is different from everybody. If you see it doing the math way, do it that way. If you see it doing 3 times the width, do it that way, okay? All right, so your answer should have been F. All right, number 4. They give you the equation, and they want you to plug in 40 for K. All right, and they want you to figure out what the value of J is. So same thing, you could plug in the answer choices and see which one is the same thing as 40. So I'm going to do it both ways, okay? So let's see, if I plugged in C is 178, so I've got 7 over 5 times 178 over 7, and then plus 54. That is way too high. That is not, oh, can y'all not see that? Sorry. That is not 40. All right, so if that's too high, then I'm going to go down to B. So 7 over 5 times negative 98 over 5, and then plus 40. Nope, that's not it. Well, let's try negative 10. Let's see, 7 over 5 times negative 10 plus 54, that's 40 right there. So you can see your answer is A if you do it that way. If you don't like that way, you can just solve it back the way you did in middle school. So you would subtract the 54 and get negative 14. Then you would multiply by the reciprocal, so that would be 5 over 7. And in your calculator, 5 over 7 times 14 is 10. So your answer would be 10. Oh, I didn't hit negative 14. It'd still be negative 10 though. Sorry guys. So 5 over 7 times negative 10 would be, well, if I can get my numbers right. Hold on, guys. 5 over 7 times negative 14 There we go. Goodness, is negative 10. Goodness gracious. All right, so that's all for that page. Go ahead and flip over. And let's look at number 5. Okay, so there's a whole mess of words to read at the very top of that table. And you don't want to start reading there. You want to start with the question. The question says that which of the following could not have been the number of points he scored on the final exam? Well, the number of points he got for his first 4 tests, if you add those all up, let's see, that would be 344 if I add those all up, and that's for his 4 tests, okay? Then it says that he had a final exam. If you look back through the top, it said that his 4 unit exams were each worth 100 points. And he had 1 final exam worth 200 points. Well, if the final is equal to 200 points and his tests are equal to 100 points, that means his final is the equivalent of 2 tests. Okay? So he had 4 tests, and his final exam is 2 tests. That means when we find the average, we're going to divide it by 6. That's a total of 6. All right, because his final exam is the equivalent of 2 tests. So we take this 344, and we're going to start by back solving, and we're going to plug in our middle answer choice first. So 344 plus 166, hit enter, divide it by 6, and you get 85. And they wanted to know, let's see, it says when course grades were posted, Hugo's course grade was listed as a B. Which of the following could not have been the number of points he scored in his final exam? So you don't want it to be a B. That means it's not going to be H. All right. Let's try going up so we can try to get to a 90. So 344. Let's do the next one. Is 176. We'll divide it by 6. All right. So 344 plus 176. Hit enter. Divide it by 6, and that's basically an 87. And that's still not, that's still a B. I need it to not be a B. So let's try K. 344 plus 196. And if I divide those, that gives me a 90. And that's the one that's not a B. So that'd be K. All right, number 6. We just did these in Chapter 8, at the very end of Chapter 8. In fact, you had a bonus problem on your test that was just like number 6. When you are adding fractions, you have to have the same denominator. Now, unfortunately, we cannot plug the numerator. This is the numerator. We cannot plug him in our calculator since he has an X. All right, so we're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. Changing these, just like you learned in elementary school, changing those to be the same denominator. So to make 3 become 6, I times it by 2, which would leave me a 2x as my numerator. To make 2 become 6, I times it by 3, which would make my new numerator 3. I can't actually add the 2x and the 3 together, so I'm going to smush them like that. Now the denominator is nothing but numbers. So I can plug that into my calculator to make sure that I don't get a calculation error. You're going to make your calculator work for you. So make sure you use parentheses around your fraction. And you get a decimal, but that's okay because we learned how to make our calculator change it to a fraction. You're going to hit your math button, which is right there below the green button. And the very first one that pops up was fractions. You're going to hit enter. And your calculator says, do you want to make that answer a fraction? And you say yes. So hit enter one more time. And you get 5/12. All right, so my denominator would be 5 over 12. And now you can use the KISS. Keep it, switch, switch. So we're going to keep our numerator, change division to multiplication, and switch this fraction to be, instead of 5 over 12, 12 over 5. Then you can cross-reduce, not cross-multiply, cross-reduce. 12 and 6 reduced by 6. They don't give me that as an answer choice, but if I distribute this, then that would be D. All right, number 7. So you're going to back solve on this one as well. I don't want to start with my middle personally because my middle has a decimal. I want to start with the ones that are whole numbers. So I'm going to start with A. So my X is -6 and my Y is 4. So I'm going to plug those in to these guys, okay? Or you could set those equal or do elimination. So I'm going to do a couple of different ways on this one depending on how you think, okay? So X would be -6 plus 2 times Y would be 2 times 4. And we're going to see if that equals 2. And that does indeed equal 2. But they both have to equal 2. They both have to have the same solution. So let's do the other one. -2 times -6 plus 4. And let's see if that equals 16. I don't know why, but that makes it better. And that does equal 16. So that one does work. That one would be A. Now, if that's the way that you would normally work this problem, then you could probably fast forward to the next one. If you want to see another way, let's try the other way. The other way would be to do elimination back from Algebra 1. And you need to get the X's or the Y's to be the same. I'm going to get the X's to be the same. So I'm going to multiply this guy by 2. And so now I can eliminate my X's by adding. -2x plus 2x is 0. 1y plus 4y is 5y. And 16 plus 4 is 20. Divide, and the only y value, that's 4, is A. So it just depends on how you see the problem. So everybody's a little different, okay? All right, let's go to the next one. All right, this is the one that I kind of went really fast on during class today, and I'm going to try to take this in more detail. All right, so they give you this formula right here. And if you notice, it starts with S sub n. S sub n. If you notice, they give you S sub 1, and they want you to find S sub 4. So that means whatever number that you're trying to find, whatever number is dropped down here, is the number that you're going to plug in for n. So in your formula, you have an n here, an n here, and an n here. All right, so they give you S sub 1. They give you that one. And you're trying to make your way to S sub 4. So you have S sub 1. You need to figure out what S sub 2 is. You need to figure out what S sub 3 is so that you can get your final answer of S sub 4. So they give us S sub 1. So next thing we need to go with is S sub 2. So here we go. So instead of S sub n, I'm going to plug in 2 because remember the 2 is what we're trying to find. So that means anywhere you see an n, you're going to put a 2 instead. So we have 2s. And I'm not going to put n minus 1. I'm going to put 2 minus 1. And then I'm not going to put n plus 1. I'm going to put 2 plus 1. All right, well, 2 minus 1 is 1. And 2 plus 1 is 3. And the reason that we did it this way is so now the only thing they gave us was S sub 1. So now I can replace S sub 1 with 3. And I have now found that S sub 2 is 6 plus 3, which is 9. So we knew S sub 1 they gave us is 3. We found S sub 2 was 9. Now, having two numbers is not enough to know a pattern. We need to find at least one more to be able to find a pattern. So let's do the next one. The next one is S sub 3. That means we're going to go back to our formula and plug in a 3. So instead of S sub n, it's S sub 3, then 2s, and I'm not going to do n minus 1. This time I'm going to do 3 minus 1. Everywhere there's an n, you're going to put a 3 this time because you're trying to find S sub 3. Plus, I'm not going to put n plus 1, I'm going to put 3 plus 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. 3 plus 1 is 4. And the reason we did that was because we just found S sub 2 to be 9. So S sub 3, not equals 4 plus 4, is 18 plus 4, which is 22. All right, so you have 3, 9, and then 22. See, because in your head you were thinking 3, 9, okay, let's pick 18 probably, you know? You were probably thinking along those notions of multiples of 3. But if you notice, that's not what we got. All right, last one is the one they wanted us to find, which is S sub 4. And this time we're going to plug in 4 for the n. So S sub 4, and again, I'm just following this formula right here, is 2s, and I'm not going to put n minus 1. I'm going to put 4 minus 1. Then I'm not going to put n plus 1. I'm going to put 4 plus 1. All right, 4 minus 1 is 3, which we just found to be 22. And then 4 plus 1 is 5. All right, so that's 44 plus 5, which is 49. And that's the one they wanted us to find. So we go from there. You did that in Algebra 1. I know you did it in Algebra 1. Don't say you didn't. You did it in Algebra 1. But it's kind of one of those things that we do very, very quickly, and we don't really come back to it a lot. So anyway, it may not be something that you remember doing, but you did do it, okay? And if you need another one of those, because those are starting to show up more often on the ACT, if you need another one of those, just come let me know. Those are pretty easy to make up. We can just look at that. All right, number 2 is a algebra level problem. It's transformations. All they want you to do is they give you this graph, y equals f of x, and which doesn't make much sense to me because y is f of x, so the same thing. But anyway, then they give you this equation, and they're asking you what are the shifts that are made. They want to know what shifts this. So if you have f of x to start with, and then all of a sudden you plug in this plus 3 and this minus 1, well, let's start with what a plus 3 means. Remember your formula y equals mx plus b? If you're adding something or subtracting something without parentheses, the x minus 1 is different. But if you're adding that 3, that means that that is the same thing as your y-intercept, which moves it up and down the y-axis. So if it's a positive 3, that would move it up 3. So all it's asking you is you're going to take the same graph and move it up 3. Well, A has up 3, B has down 3, C has right 3, D has right 3, and E has left 3. So the only one that's got up 3 is A. And then just to make sure that we all remember, because they're obviously not going to give you the same question, remember that when it was inside parentheses, you took the opposite sign and moved left and right. So normally -1 would tell you to move left, but you take the opposite sign, and that would tell you to move right 1, which is what A says. Right 1 and up 3. All right. Let's move to the next one. Number 3, we just took a test on this in chapter 7. You're going to whoosh it. 5 to the second equals x, 5 to the negative 2 equals x. Now, I want you to plug this into your calculator instead of just assuming the answer is negative 25, because some of you are going to get to going really fast and then you're going to get the wrong answer. Notice that I get a decimal, which means I get a fraction. So it would be 1 over 25. And see how my decimals match up? So that answer is K. Please use your calculator. Let it earn its keep, okay? Let it earn the money that your mama paid for it. All right, number 4, last one on that page was back from chapter 6 when we plugged in these functions. So you're going to have negative 3 that you're going to plug in for x. So you got negative 6 and negative 3 squared. And then you literally type that entire thing into your calculator. Negative 6, parentheses, negative 3, close it, and then square it. And you get negative 54. And that's all you had to do, which is G. All right, let's flip over to the next one. Number 5 is very similar to what your test is going to be on Thursday. If they give you SOHCAHTOA, you gotta know that. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. They give you sine, so sine is opposite over hypotenuse. And they ask you, well, if that's sine, then what is cosine? Well, guys, look, cosine has hypotenuse on the denominator as well as sine. The only answer choice that has a denominator of 29 is H. So you're done. You could draw a triangle out if you wanted to. And you can see, you can put theta wherever. So let's put theta here. Opposite of that is 20. Hypotenuse would be 29. You'd have to do Pythagorean theorem to find out what that missing side is. The negative comes in with something that we will do later in trig. We haven't gotten to it yet. Again, fast forward if you don't want to see this. So it'd be 20 squared plus x squared equals 29 squared. 29 squared minus 20 squared would be 441. Square root 441, and you get 21. And that goes here. So then your adjacent would be 21 over 29. And we'll talk about what the negative means later. But at least you can get the numbers out of that. But hopefully you can see the sine, cosine have the same hypotenuse already. And you can just do the quick way right off the bat. All right, number 6. Basic 6th grade problem right here. They're finding slope. Slope is y equals mx plus b, which means that you have to solve this equation for y. So you're going to subtract 3x. X always comes first, so negative 3x, and that's positive 5. Hopefully you can see that you're going to divide by 8, and you do not need to be an obedient math student and divide by 8 physically on your paper. If you see that you're going to divide the negative 3 by 8, you can pick your answer. But if you need to, I would rather you did it and got the right answer, then you can see that your slope is always in front of x, which is negative 3 over 8. All right, let's look at the next one. You got Marco has programmed his calculator to do some crazy stuff. And when he enters 5, it gives him 2. And when he enters 15, it gives him 6. And he wants to know which of the following will display any number in. Well, you can't really use your answer, your starting with the middle one and work your way test strategy, because there's no numbers here. There's just expressions. So, I mean, you can kind of start wherever you want to. So if I'm going to start from the top one, if I take 15 and multiply it by 2 over 5, let's see if that gives me 6. And it does. That does give me 6, which is what I need it to. Then do the other one. 5 times 2 over 5. See if it gives you 2. And it does. So that means that one's your answer. If you were to plug in, if you were to look at G, 5 over 2 times 15 would give you 37.5 instead of 6. If you looked at H, 15 minus 3 is not going to give you 6. That'll give you 12. If you look at J, 15 minus 9, that would give you 6. But when you plug in 5, it doesn't work for 5. 5 minus 9 would be negative 4, not 2. So you've got to make sure that you check it for both things they give you, not just one of them, because they won't always work. And then we ain't got time to show you K doesn't work, okay? And then 8 is plugging in. So you're going to plug in 4 into G. So G of X would be 4 squared over 2. 4 squared is 16. Divide that by 2, and that'd be 8. Now, they were tricky, and they gave you 8 as an answer choice, okay? Slow down and realize that now you've got to take that answer of 8 that you got for G of 4, and you've got to plug that into F of X. So it'd be 3 times 8 plus 7. Well, 3 times 8 is 24, plus 7 would be 31, which is H. All right, let's go to the next page. Okay, this one right here, number 1, this is statistics, okay? I mean, basic 5th or 6th grade problem right here. You have, what is the probability of selecting a red marble? Well, they gave you 5 out of 19 was red marbles. Or meant to add, and meant to multiply. Okay, so just remember those little tidbits. So or means to add. So red or blue. Blue gave us 4 out of 19. Notice that test-taking strategy. I didn't even need to waste my time and read it. I read the question, and I could just pluck my numbers out of what I have. And when you're adding, you just add the numerator, and you get 9 over 19. Don't add the denominator, because I give you C, and that's the wrong answer. All right, number 2, same thing. You've got all of those words. You've got all of those words, okay? Don't pick the words. Let's read the question. If it can be determined which of the 4 statistics changed the least. Okay, so let's pick out our numbers. Goodness, I can't talk today. So you've got 30,000 and 35,000. That is, if you read back, each person earned an annual income. So you got a group of people that've got an annual income of 30,000 to 35,000. Nobody else entered or left the bookstore, and then a professional athlete with an annual income of more than $1 million enters the bookstore. So you've got mean, median, range, and standard deviation. Well, I got the question today, what is standard deviation? That's statistics stuff that you will learn in statistics. We haven't gotten to that. You'll get to that later. But what you do know is you know mean, median, and range. And you know that most of these questions are questions you have already learned. So I can assume that it's going to be one of those 3 that I know. Well, let's talk about range. Range is when you took the highest minus the lowest. Mean was your average. Median was the middle. All right, so let's pick some random numbers. Let's pick some random numbers around about the same as this guy. So between the same 5 numbers. So I'm going to pick 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, because you want to pick them between 5 because it goes from 30 to 35. All right, so if I pick the range would be the highest minus the lowest. That'd be 4. If I pick the mean, I would add them all up. So it'd be 6, 10, 13, 15. Divide that by 5 of them. That'd be 3. And if I pick the median, that'd be the middle number, which is 3. Okay? All right, now let's throw a random huge number in there, just like they threw a random huge number in here for our annual income. So let's pick a number like, 100, 1,000, 2,500, whatever you want to pick, as long as it's significantly larger than everything else. So I'm just going to pick 1,000. All right? So let's do the range again. Range this time was my highest is now 1,000 minus 1. That's 999. My mean would be 15 plus 1,000, which would be 1,015. But now it's going to be divided by 6. What is that? 169.167. And if you look at my median, it's my middle number. So it'd be between 3 and 4. So it'd be 3.5. All right, so it said, let's see, which one changed the least? Right off the bat, guys, your median was 3 here and 3.5 here. That's the one that changed the least. All right, that's a lot of work. A lot of you will not need to do all that work, but I showed it to you to kind of show you my thought process, since I kind of am doing this video for everybody. So if you didn't need all that work, don't do all that work, but you can kind of see the thought process that goes through there. All right, let's look at number 3. Let's see, what's this one say? You got an average score. Okay, so let's see. Let's pick a random thing for his points. So I picked 80. Random number. If you want to put on there that that's a random number, okay? And he has an average score of exactly an 80 on 4 equally weighted tests. So you're going to take the 80, times it by his 4 tests, and you get 320. How many points higher than X? X, remember, was 80. Must Pete score on the 5th test, equally weighted test, to raise his average score? Remember, his average score was the 80 to an 80 plus 2, because remember, X was 80 plus 2. So X plus 2 would be an 82. So it said how many points higher than his score of 320. So we're not going to divide it by 4 this time. We have 5 tests now. And we want to see what X would need to be to make it an X plus 2 or an 82. So we're going to times that by 5. And let's see. So if I multiply 82 by 5, that would give me 410. Subtract the 320. And X would be 90. All right, so if you look at what you started with 80, you got 90, so he would need, the difference there would be 10, so he would need to make 10 points higher in order to make 2 points more than his average. And if you want to check it, see if it worked. You add 320 plus, we said he would have needed a 90 divided by 5. See if that gives you 2 more than what you started with, and it will. It'll give you an 82. All right, so let's see if that's all for that page. Let's go to the next page. Still on stats. All right, let's read through the question. All right, what is the probability the contestant will get all 4 in the correct order? All right, so to become a contestant on a quiz show, a person must correctly order 4 rock stars by age, from youngest to oldest. The contestant knows which one is the oldest, so he already knows this guy, so we don't have to worry about him because he already knows him. But randomly guesses at the order of the other 3. What is the probability the contestant will get all 4 in the correct order? All right, here we go. So we know the oldest one, so we don't have to worry about him. We only have to worry about the 3 remaining. Well, he has 3 choices here for the first one. He has 3 rock stars to choose from. All right, but he has to choose one. That leaves you with 2 more rock stars left. Then he has to choose one out of that 2. He has to take one of them. So that only leaves me with 1 person left in this final place. So if you multiply 3 times 2 times 1, that gives you 6. So he's got a 1 out of 6 chance. All right, number 5, you've got some license plates. And it says how many different such license plate numbers can be made. So you got an automobile license plate issued a certain state, has 6 characters. Each of the first 3, so this guy, and this guy, contain a single digit from 0 through 9. Guys, 0 through 9 is 10 digits. You don't believe me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because you had that 0 included in there, okay? That's 10 digits. All right, then each of the last 3, which are these 3, contain one of 26 letters. Now look at what it did there. It didn't say 1 through 26, it said 1 of 26. So you got to watch the wording there. 26 goes here. And then you just multiply all those. Literally. 10 times 10 times 10 times 26 times 26 times 26. And you should get, where'd my answer go? Hold on. You should get K as your answer. You're literally just multiplying all 6 of those numbers. That's it. All right, number 6. Let's see. Let the random variable x represent the number of points Anne receives on any one draw. What is the expected value of x? All right, so the bells are still going because school's technically still in according to the bell. So where are we at? Okay, each card has a single number written on it. 1 card has a 1. 2 cards have a 2. 3 cards have a 3. And 4 cards have a 4. Alright, so if you will add those all up.
May I have your attention, please? Teachers and staff.
Okay, guys, well, they just told me I had to leave, so let me do this one real quick, and then I'll try to figure out some way to do the rest of them for you tonight and send it to you. Okay, but real quick, you're going to add these together, so that, let's see, 2 plus 3 is 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14, 14 plus 4, 8, 12, 16, would be 30. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and divide those, and you get 3. Okay? Well, real quick, let me do this one page. I know I'm going to be a rebel. I'm sorry. Don't be like me. Let me do this one problem because it has a picture on here, and I can't do that one at home. So let me do this one question real quick. Here we go. So we got negative 2, 0. We got 0, 4. We have 5, 5. And we have 8, 2. And it wants to know what picture is that. The picture would be a trapezoid, which would be C as an answer choice, okay? I will definitely make sure that I do the rest of them tonight and send them to you. Y'all have a great day, okay? Bye, guys.